In this video, we will talk about precursors of reading. This is not going to be a lecture. I think the textbook covers this area very well. I just want to make a few brief comments. The first topic I want to discuss is emergent literacy. Emergent literacy concerns the gradual familiarization of young children with concepts of print and written language more generally. These are most often associated with the so-called code-level skills and include things like phonological awareness, print awareness, letter knowledge, and these kinds of things. So here is the idea that the child gradually realizes that words are things, that books can have words in them, that words are written or that have a visual appearance that is different from other kinds of drawings, that books have a beginning and an end, that words are displayed linearly on a book, that spoken words have parts, and all these things that will later be put together to form the alphabetic principle and evolve into the ability of phonological recoding. However, you should know that this term has been used in many different ways, and it would not be unusual in educational contexts to find the term emergent literacy written by people who mean something entirely different. There has been a direction in educational circles claiming that written language just emerges as children are exposed and immersed in a written language culture. This is a philosophical position that is not in accordance with research findings. As we have discussed in detail, written language doesn't spontaneously emerge and requires explicit and systematic instruction. So when we talk about emergent literacy as a gradual familiarization resulting in the skills that are necessary and will underlie the development of phonological recoding abilities and later sight word vocabulary and skilled reading, this is a very, very different issue from claiming that awareness of literacy and reading skill more specifically just develop by themselves as a result of immersion in a written language culture. In the same way as oral language kind of emerges, it is acquired due to interaction within an oral language community. So the asymmetry between oral and written language that we've discussed in detail should preclude any such interpretation, but you should be warned that this is sometimes found in the literature. The second topic I would like to address briefly is home literacy environment. Again, this is something about gradual familiarization. So there are environments, there are homes that are filled with books where parents read and these kinds of things that familiarize children with the idea of reading. And when this includes parents reading to the children, also familiarizes the children with a wide range of language skills, enriches their vocabulary, as well as their understanding of narrative and discourse, and building their own skills, especially if children are also engaged in interaction during shared book reading. This can help children toward reading comprehension later. So there is an association with home literacy environment and reading skills as they develop during the elementary school grades. However, you should not take this to mean that improving a person's home literacy environment will necessarily result in this person becoming a better reader, because the implied causality does not seem to hold, at least not to the extent that many people would like it to. Recent studies have consistently been demonstrating that reading skill drives and leads to reading behavior. This means that those who read better end up reading more and therefore benefiting more by reading and also increasing their reading skills, and the circle closes, but the driving force is the reading skill, not the exposure to books. Another consistent finding in recent literature is that we cannot ignore the role of inheritance in skills such as reading and many others as well. In particular, the coordinated effects of genetics and environment may be misinterpreted and have often been misinterpreted as indicating a role for environmental effects. However, this is not necessary and has been, in fact, very difficult to demonstrate in studies that try to separate genetic from environmental effects. What is certain is that parents who are active skilled readers pass on their genes to their children, thus likely contributing to the children being skilled readers as well. In addition, these parents also likely live in a house that has a lot of books and exhibit a lot of reading behaviors, including reading books in front of the children, reading books to the children, and reading books with the children. In other words, providing a rich home literacy environment. These things are necessarily connected. So if we have an association of a rich home literacy environment and strong reading skills, this cannot be taken to imply that it is the literacy environment that led to the development of strong skills. In fact, studies that have tried to separate these factors have not been able to find a large effect, or sometimes indeed any effect, of the environment in this direction. So these results must be interpreted with caution. And one note regarding the socioeconomic status effects, or SES effects, as they are known. These effects are actually very large, unfortunately, and they encompass a wide range of domains. They're not only restricted to academic domains such as reading performance or reading skill, but they typically include language and cognitive skills as well. And this is a very important factor that researchers have had to control for or adjust for whenever they run studies in large populations of children out in the field. These effects are also quite persistent in two ways. They're both long-lasting, so they don't just go away, and they're hard to overcome by intervention. So of course, intervention that is effective is also effective with low SES children, but people have had great difficulty overcoming SES differences by intervention, even if they have managed to address the gap to some extent. This is a very complicated issue that also involves what is going on at the house, that also involve what is going on at home, and possibly hereditary issues as well. This is of major concern in places like the United States, where a lot of the research on reading skill development is carried out, because of the huge differences in SES that are commonly found there. However, don't think that countries like Norway, famed for equality, are immune to this. There are documented SES effects in Norway, and they're not likely to go away. So you should be sensitive to the possibility of socioeconomic factors affecting the development of academic skills as well as more wide-ranging effects.